Previously on Night Shift.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was just on MS Now yesterday, and he had on Morning Joe a whole segment, about an 8-minute segment, and he talked about, well, I don't know, he kind of pivots a little bit on this release of UFO and UAP documents. And he sort of, I don't know, it looks like he's starting to pivot a little bit on I don't want to say reality, but it's becoming visibly more difficult for him to publicly say with a straight face that there is no there in light of all of the activity around the UFO UAP subject. And this is really the main thing I want to talk about today. I have another clip I want to share with you a little bit later on. But as we get into this, I hope they don't give me a hard time for sharing this clip, but I'm going to share it. Take a look at this. Let's watch it together. Listen to how Neil talks about the subject, the way he kind of reframes it now.
Administration this week piqued that curiosity with its release of previously confidential Pentagon files on UFOs. And our next guest is preparing alien enthusiasts with a practical guide for dealing with potential visitors from outer space. News you can use. Joining us now, renowned astrophysicist and best-selling author Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's out today with a new book titled Take Me to Your Leader, Perspectives on Your First Alien Encounter. Neil, great to see you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being here. I'm just going to read your own words on the back of the book, so readers know what to expect when they pick this up. Think of Take Me to Your Leader as a book of etiquette for close encounters, or perhaps a scientifically infused user's manual with helpful hints from an astrophysicist who wants to meet the aliens as badly as you do.
That's me, right there.
Okay. So far, so good. It gets better, but then it gets worse. See if you can follow along. Tell me what you think about this.
So tell me, do you write this book because you think that encounter is imminent?
Well, it's been gurgling up within me, and because alien sightings or UFO sightings have transitioned really over the past several years from the farmer seeing it on his back 40 and drunken revelers at 2 a.m. when the bar closes. You get these reports and you say, I don't know how we should believe those. Right on up to, in recent years, testimonies in Congress by insiders and former military officials and security, people in the security sectors of our government, reporting on things that we either don't understand or that they believe they do, such as alien body parts, crashed saucers, reversed engineering of their technologies. So I'm thinking, okay, it's time to bring out the alien. So why not? And so if they bring out the alien, or if an alien does arrive, we should be prepared for that. And this is a primer for you.
You're right. It's not just a sighting.
All right. So far, I'm still here for it. This is, he's acknowledging the change in tone in media coverage because he really has no choice at this point. I mean, you've had, the sitting president, the previous previous president, a former senator, and Secretary of State, and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, all within a few days of each other, all acknowledging it openly, in a serious way. It's at this stage, it's really on you to explain as a non-believer how this is not happening, how there is no there. I think that's for me anyway. The burden of proof has shifted in this conversation. If you say there is absolutely no there, you've got to explain away about a million very, very bizarre, strange pieces of information that have just dropped in the last few years. And that's to say nothing of what's coming and what's right around the corner, which we are to believe if we are listening to voices like David Grush, who has recently spoken on this issue, should be pretty eye-opening. And he seems very serious, and he seems also He seems very he's very calm about it. He says it in a very confident way. Serious is like maybe too strong of a word, but the confidence in the way that he says it, he's like, look, give it 90 days, give it 60 to 90 days, and then you're going to see. We've heard this stuff before, but we've heard a lot of things before. David Grush, he stands out among people who have spoken on this topic, and he has a very unique spot in the pantheon of whistleblowers. So in terms of people I pay attention to, he is one for sure. Let's go back and see how Neil fucks this up. I'm being hard on Neil here, but tell me what you think.
On dashboard cameras in Russia anymore. It seems to have a little more credibility. Even former President Obama recently said something that suggested that he knew that we were not alone in the universe. He had to kind of walk it back.
So he's scientifically literate. So when he says, yeah, surely they're aliens, he's saying what we had told him in the astrophysics community. You do the math. You look at how old the universe is, the ingredients of life, how quickly life got started on Earth. It'd be irresponsible. It would be an overstretch of your ego to presume we're alone.
So let me ask you, what did you think of the material that the Pentagon just did release?
Oh, so I enjoyed going back to those early typewritten letters from 1947, describing in very flat terms, not, no hyperbole. We found this. What do you think of that? Let's talk about this. Let's keep it under wraps. And it's just fun to get a little bit of history there. But again, it was consistent with testimonies we've already heard in Congress. There's nothing new there, no shockers that we couldn't have extrapolated from what was already told.
So Neil, your book includes.
Okay, so now he's tamping it down a little bit. He's saying, look, there is something there. I can't act like there's not something there. I mean, for Christ's sake, Barack Obama's talking about it now. Like, I'm going to look like a fucking asshole if I keep going down this road, banging my head against that wall. So I've got to give a little bit. This is how I'm reading it anyway. All right, there's a there, but I haven't seen anything that's really changed my mind just yet. Fine. That's okay. That's progress. I'll take it. And to be fair, I haven't seen anything that's really blown up my skirt just yet. So when I do, you'll be the first to know. But as far as my early hot take on what's been released to date, wait and see. I mean, the NDAA Disclosure Act legislation that was originally submitted in the first round, when that piece of legislation was originally put forward, there was a very specific, detailed, organized, structured way of not only reviewing information to determine if it was worthy of its classification level, like if it had been misclassified because of one of a million different reasons. There was a process in place for that. There was a process in place for deciding if things needed to be or could be reclassified or declassified and move through an ecosystem. And then the way that legislation spelled out the final phase, that information would basically go before a board of scientists and experts in various fields. I want to say it was 9. It was like a 9-person board. It was like 6 or 9. I think it was like 9 people. From all disciplines, astrophysics was one, physicist, sociologist, anthropologist, whatever the list was. But there was basically a process for the president to recommend a certain group of people, and then Congress could approve them, and then Congress could recommend certain people, and the president had to sign off on them. So it was this whole process, okay? And you can go back and read this. I've got my copy of this printed out behind me. But in the end, it boiled down to this panel of experts that were going to be pulled from the civilian world. They could have no ties. This was actually written into the law. They had no ties to aerospace companies. They had to have absolutely pristine, clean connections so that they could represent a neutral, impartial group. And then they were to review all of this information, and then publish it through the National Archives into a compendium that would be accessible not only through the public library system and on the websites, but it would be, it would be free information available for everybody. And that process would have been overseen by Congress. So the congressional oversight was built into this plan from the beginning. Now, that legislation famously did not pass. It got butchered, and then it got, passed in bits and pieces later. And of course, none of that stuff happened. But the reason I'm reminding you of this is because it didn't pass. Now what we're seeing is this weird sort of ad hoc, last minute sort of, I don't know what the hell this is. Like, it's like anything else in this administration. It's just one guy deciding go, and then everybody scrambles to figure out what go means, and then they have to go do it. And that is progress. It's not a bad thing. I am genuinely excited to see what comes next. I am of the wait and see mentality regarding this information and these drops. But the critical factor here is that there's no declaration from the Defense Department, the Pentagon, or any of the branches of the armed services. There's no declaration as to what any of this shit is. And the question that we're really trying to answer here, as both researchers and enthusiasts and members of the community, I think at the heart of it, if you really get right down to what we're all here for, is it or isn't it? Are we or aren't we? You're the ones with the $1 trillion defense budget. You're the ones with all of the most sophisticated sensor technology that is available to the human race. I'm talking about the Pentagon and the intelligence community. Like, you guys have the answer. We need to know that. A bunch of loose pictures and documents that have been fished out of filing cabinets from 60 years ago is, as interesting as that is, it is a distraction from the much, much, much more detailed reams of information, which must include video, audio, crystal clear photos. And I'm talking about photos and video from inside craft, actually inside an operational craft. Like, these things do exist. They are out there somewhere on some classified server. Without a mechanism of knowing even who has what information, it's really hard to understand how you would begin to dissect a giant squid organism like this. And it's harder for me to imagine. It's harder for me to imagine how you would even know if any information you're getting, what it means without an explanation, right? Like, so just dumping information into the public sphere and hoping people will, come to their own conclusions, or allowing people to come to their own conclusions, is not addressing the core issue here. It looks like disclosure, but it's not. Disclosure is like, you're disclosing the knowledge that this is real. Okay, what does real mean? These are real non-humans. This is a craft built by non-humans. How do we know? Because we took it the fuck apart, and we got the guys that were inside, and they're in tanks now, floating at some place out at Groom Lake, or I don't know. We liquidated them into a goo and set them on fire. Whatever we do, someone is in our military industrial complex. Someone has the job of, here come 6 little grays that came off of a crash disk. What are we going to do with them? Do you throw them in the ocean? Do you send them to a furnace? Like, what do you do with those? Where do they go, on ice? My point is, what I'm driving at here is that, like, what we've seen so far, to me, is the equivalent of bank robbers throwing like a bunch of ones out the window to like blind the cops who are chasing them down the road, so that they just get distracted and can't find out where they're going. And meanwhile, like, the real meat and potatoes is getting away here. So I would say let's wait and see, but keep the pressure on. Now, I'm not done with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Let's go back to Neil, and then we'll revisit this in just a second. Stick with me, guys. And by the way, there's 375 of you in here. God bless you. Thanks for being here. It is awesome to have somebody on a Wednesday in the middle of the afternoon. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit the like button, please. Just doing that literally sends a little signal to the algorithm to push this live stream out to more people's feeds. And if enough of you do it, we can watch the audience count go up in real time. And it's a fun game that we can all play that eventually helps this channel become financially sustainable, which is the key word. I want you to keep that in mind. Okay, thanks, guys. Let's go back to Neil, and then we'll.
Tips and tricks for if the reader ever finds themselves in an alien encounter, and you write in part this: if an alien approaches you with multiple appendages, one of which looks like an extend hand, resist grabbing and shaking it. You don't know in advance what part of the alien's anatomy you just touched, and you probably don't want to find out. Furthermore, the handshake is not even a worldwide custom, so it's surely not universal. Nor do you know if raising your hand in a high gesture can be constructed as an act of kindness or aggression. And what if the alien chooses to greet you the way Earth dogs greet each other, and it simply wants to come around and sniff your butt? You don't know anything about your new friend's customs, so on a first encounter, it's probably a good idea to leave all your habits at home until you learn a thing or two about theirs. We laughed along with that.
Want to read the audiobook?
Yeah, because
Well, fuck you, Neil. What is that? Come on, man.
Night Shift is brought to you by Night Shift, the coffee. Coffee so fresh, it defies physics. Get yours today at teamnightshift.com.
You have every opportunity here to take this seriously. Like, they're giving you an off-ramp. You've got an off-ramp here. Use it. Take the fucking off-ramp. Treat it seriously. It is serious. I think he has demonstrated just so far, just this little giggle fest that he's having here in this whole bit about, like, well, you don't know what appendage you're shaking. Well, duh. No shit, Sherlock. Of course. Like, do you think there are no PhDs in the UFO nerd community? Do you think there are no biologists or anthropologists or psychologists? Like, this whole fucking world is made up of people who are absolutely top tier in their various fields, and they take it seriously. They find a way. Knowing what they know and with the training that they have, they understand that there is enough of a there that it is worthy of investigation, and it's at the very least, it's worthy of your curiosity and not your ridicule. And it's just a shame to me that every time he has the opportunity to take it seriously, he just fucking doesn't. But maybe that's the point. I don't know Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't have any connection to this guy, and I don't want to, say for sure that, he's on anybody's payroll, but he behaves, in my view, as someone who is being compensated to be on television and ridicule this topic. Now, whether that compensation is financial or whether it is in some other form in terms of, like, maybe just projects you want to do that get green lit, and then suddenly you're able to lock in deals that you wouldn't otherwise lock in. I don't know. And this is just my sense. I don't know this. So, who am I? I'm just a guy, right? So, however, it seems to me that if you're a young kid who dreams of being an astrophysicist or an astronaut or an astronomer, or just having anything to do with frontier science or space exploration, how many among us have been that kid at one point in our lives? And you're looking out at the possibilities, and the whole world out there is open to you. And hopefully, if you're that curious and open-minded and excited about the world, I can't imagine how you wouldn't be a voracious science fiction fan. So, like, how are you not bursting with curiosity about this topic. Here you have a world full of people who are telling you, and he even said it at the top of the show, these aren't just, in the beginning when Neil is kind of recounting, well, in the old days, the only sightings we had were like goofy farmers and, people who weren't that reliable, which is not true. That's not true at all. There have been highly, highly credible sightings by military trained observers, pilots, intelligence professionals, like people who know what they're talking about for as long as this topic has been under discussion. Airline pilots, people who have spent tens of thousands of hours in the air for one reason or another doing whatever it is, that, they know what they're looking at. And for him to act like this all just started, the serious conversation just started a few years ago when, pilots started coming forward saying they were seeing this on maneuvers and it was leaking to the New York Times. That's a real, he's really late to the game, and he's showing like he has done no work on understanding the history of this topic. And then to jump forward and say, well, so now I'm going to write a book and I'm going to ride the wave of enthusiasm around the subject, but my book is going to basically be poking fun at it in a way by assuming, I guess, from its tone. I haven't read it, but I would love to read it and just report back to you. And I might be wrong, but just from the tone that they're showing on this MS Now clip, it's demonstrating that there is a misunderstanding about what people are claiming is actually happening within this community. He has like his idea of what ufology is and what the people who are interested in this topic are. He is thinking about it like it's a 12-year-old's idea of what this is. Actually, I think at 12, I had a better picture of what was going on than he does now. But it's like it's a childlike idea. It's an undeveloped, under-researched, misunderstood, misinterpreted take on what he's assuming people are thinking, and that's what he's leading with. So let's finish out this segment, and then we'll.
Really good. So what do you do?
Well, so I have a whole chapter on how you might take first steps. Okay. By the way, Obama recently said that he wanted to be the emissary of Earth to aliens.
It's a good choice.
Well, because he's a diplomat and he's a politician, and I think if the aliens want to lay waste to Earth, you need a diplomat in there to try to not have that happen. But if they don't, because the evil alien trope, I think, is primarily our fears of ourselves hoisted upon them, because we know how we treat one another when it's a more advanced part of our civilization encountering a less advanced. They're enslaved, they're slaughtered, they're persecuted. List whatever the history of civilization has done, what we have done to ourselves. So if the alien is not evil, then we don't really need a politician, you need a scientist. And so I describe a kit you should carry with you, a little science kit, like the Pythagorean theorem. Mm-hmm. That would be literally universal, and you show geometrically with a triangle and squares. The periodic table of elements, they won't recognize our symbols, but the structure of the periodic table comes from quantum physics. That is universal. So you have some certain things that'll warm them up and give them some confidence that we have any intelligence at all.
That math more of the universal language than anything we could speak.
Exactly, and so you got to come equipped to communicate in that way.
And I guess there is this belief, as a final last quick question, if an alien civilization reaches us, that means they have reached a degree of sophistication that we have not. Is there then hope that perhaps that means they would also be enlightened and want to be friends?
I think that's a realistic hope. Like I said, evil aliens is just us. Okay, and one concern I have is that every Hollywood rendering of aliens, most of them, are humanoid. And, they're gray, big eyes,
This guy over here.
Well, I love him hanging out the window, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, they never give him hair. I'm just intrigued by that, because if they're humanoid, they might have hair, a mustache or a beard, evil goatee beard.
Again, a complete failure to have researched the topic that he's claiming to be writing about or some kind of expert on. He doesn't understand. He's treating the gray like it's some kind of Hollywood creation. This is something that's been reported as real by hundreds of thousands of people going back for hundreds or thousands of years, depending on how far back you look and what you're looking at, all the way to indigenous cultures in South America and Africa have reported encountering grays. So either all of those people for all of that period of history, all around the world in unconnected cultures that were experiencing meeting beings with short stature, large heads, big eyes, small mouth, small holes for a nose, maybe some holes for an ear, for ears, sometimes in a tight-fitting black or silver suit, even down to illustrations and drawings that people have done hundreds and hundreds of years ago of what these beings look like. And they're more or less the gray, the iconic gray that we all recognize. But he also fails to notice that there are many other types of creatures that have been described by contactees, like many other types, many other body shapes. I'm thinking of like the Pascagoula encounter, for instance, is super weird. It's the weird. In fact, it's a weird outlier to me in terms of just overall encounter cases. But Pascagoula is one example where, what was it? They were fishing on the bank of the river, and then this craft appears, and they see this thing come out of it that is basically like a giant metal being with cones coming off of its head and a cone coming off of the front of its face. This thing has this craft has some kind of mechanical arms that they describe as moving around and trying to grab them. It was super strange. People have described beings that look like reptiles. People have described beings that look like humans or humanoid, but tall and skinny and white. All kinds of different little short hairy beings. I mean, there are a number of different body styles that people have described.
Maybe. All right, the new book, it's a great read. We've laughed aloud this whole segment. The book is Take Me to Your Leader, Perspectives on Your First Alien Encounter.
Man, that just seems like such a lame way to try and cover this. What do you guys think? Let's look at the chat. Lizard people, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti. I've always believed that Tyson is a disinformation agent in the vein of Operation Mockingbird. Look at his origin story with Carl Sagan. I cannot stand his smug ass. Good people Z123. Good peoples? Good peoples. Interesting comment. Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird was the CIA program to embed CIA agents that were directly on the CIA payroll in every newsroom in America to intercept stories, change them, modify them, plant stories, basically control the American news media landscape and influence the zeitgeist that way. Sea of Curls says, being a space scientist is not the same thing as being a ufologist. Someone tell him that. Interesting. Yeah. I think he's just, the people that I know in this space, the people that I talk to, are very serious people. They're genuinely curious. They are people who have been in their careers for sometimes 30, 40 years at a very high level, doing a variety of different things across different disciplines. These are people who are very solid people. You would trust them to do, a lot of them, you would trust them to do surgery on you in some cases, brain surgery. There are people who you would trust, you do trust them to fly you around the country or fly you around the world that are pilots that do this every day. And they're dead serious when they talk about this topic. So for him to just belittle it with all of the chuckle-fest and the whole like, don't shake their appendage. Yeah, you just don't know what the whole shtick. It feels very out of touch. It feels kind of weak, really. It's sort of like dated, like that whole playbook of belittling the topic by playing the X-Files music and showing the little green alien. They always show that, even if it's a person holding like a balloon and sticking it out the car. That's a classic move. The way that the media handled this in decades past was very similar to that. It was pretty much that across the board. If it was a local news show, they would interview the goofball person who is sort of like a ne'er-do-well. There might be 100 people who saw a crazy object in the sky, right? 100 people see an amazing sighting that is absolutely like blow your mind amazing. And out of that 100 people, 2 of them might be college professors. 3 of them might be, nurses or doctors. A couple might be police officers or former military. And, you'll have all of these various people, cross-section, right? And then they would go to the guy who was kind of like the town drunk or the weirdo. They'd find the strangest looking person. They would bring that person on and they'd be like, what'd you see? I saw a giant light in the sky. And I don't know. And they run with that. And that's what gets amplified. So that's when it comes to anything higher level, like what Avi Loeb is doing at Harvard with the Galileo project. I don't really hear him reacting to that. He's punching down. He's not punching at his own level, right? Like go engage Avi Loeb